Okay. Doesn't really look like anyone else has joined since 1:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the approver training, week 3 training for CSUBUY P2P. For those of you who didn't know, we went live with the system on the 26th, 2 weeks ago. We've been hosting weekly trainings with different topics covered each week. Um, I'll kind of go give an overview of what we covered already. Today we're talking about the approver role and everything involved with that role and what actions you can take in the system. So I'll do a PowerPoint since today what we're covering is pretty straightforward and there isn't too much information to cover. It probably won't take the full time. So please, and it's a small group of people, so please feel free to stop me at any time if you have questions, or you can leave comments or questions in the Q&A. We have the Q&A in the chat. I think we'll use the chat to post information to you guys, so like links and useful information from our end, and then please use the Q&A if you have questions. We have a few other buyers here who can answer your questions. Um, so I guess before I even start, my name's Lauren. I'm a buyer here. There's a couple other buyers here who will be answering questions for you, along with Brenda, who was the one who set up this, scheduled this meeting for us. So thank you, Brenda, for doing that. Um, any questions right off the bat that anyone has? And I appreciate KB and KJ if you could just monitor the Q&A because I won't be able to really look at it. So okay, awesome. All right. Okay, so I'm going to give a PowerPoint. We'll go through all the slides and I'll talk about all the different things that I'm going to demo. We actually have the time to go through the PowerPoint today, so I'll go through each thing and you can ask me questions, but what will happen is I'll go through the PowerPoint and then I'll give a demo of everything that I'm showing in the PowerPoint for you guys to get a real understanding of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so like I said, we're talking about approving today. That's pretty much the gist of it. So we're in week 3, like I said, and let's get to it. Okay, so first, I'm just going to give a little recap of what we've covered in the previous weeks. Uh, so in week 1 and 2, we were talking about shopping and we were talking about requesting and we in week 1 we talked about navigating CSU BY, the interface, and roles that are available in the system. Just a general overview of the system and navigating around on the site. We talked about suppliers and the different forms that are available in the system. We talked about punch outs, what those are and how to use them and when you would use them. We talked about entering your chart field information for funding and accounting, and the different options you have when entering that information. And we talked about managing and checking out your shopping carts, which turn into requisitions. And then in week 2, we pretty much built off of that base that we established in the first week. Uh, we really dug deeper into shopping and requesting. So we did some shopping, some examples with different forms in the system. And we reviewed more complex requisitions that you would enter, which would be like a multi-year PO or blanket orders. We kind of talked about the different types of orders that you would be putting into the system, depending on what it is you are trying to purchase. And then we talked about change requests and change orders, which, just to clarify the two, a change request is a request that's submitted by the PO owner, and it goes to procurement for us to approve. And a change order is when the buyer specifically makes a change to a PO, which would happen in a very, very few scenarios, but it is an option that we have. Um, if you didn't see this information or you weren't at those trainings, that's okay. We have a YouTube channel that has recorded sessions. Like I said, we have Zoom trainings on Friday, so the Zoom trainings have been recorded, and you can go there and watch those at any time. I think Brenda might put that in the chat. But you can also find it on our website, the CSUF Contracts and Procurement website. We have an entire page dedicated to P2P. From there, you can log in. There's supplier resources, training resources from us and from the Chancellor's office. It's great if you need help with anything and there's no one available to talk to you right away. I would recommend that you start there. Okay. Okay, so there's just one module in this training, which is why I'm just going to go through the PowerPoint first and then kind of demo everything after that. Um, so this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the approval workflow for requisitions, which is where approvers are involved. Approvers, so shoppers and requesters are the ones who create shopping carts and shop in the system. Then they submit their requisitions and they go into the approval stage. So there are various types of approvers in the system. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about reviewing and editing a requisition, which is what the approvers are doing. They're going to be looking at the requisitions and based on whatever kind of review or approval they are delegated to complete. We'll talk about commenting inside of the system, which is very useful for requesters. We'll talk about every single action that an approver can make when it is in their queue and they're actually approving documents in the system. And we'll talk about reverting to a previous workflow step. So essentially sending requisitions back to be edited. Okay, so first off, we're going to talk about the approval workflow, which is a very key detail in this system. Um, so we'll review the approval workflow and talk about the difference between manual and automated approval steps. Okay, so this visual is very useful, but it also kind of complicated until it's explained. So I'll kind of break it down for you so you guys have better understanding. Um, so this represents every step a requisition can potentially go through in the system. So again, what we talked about the last 2 weeks was shopping and requesting. So all of that has happened before we get to this gray box, which is submit requisition. The shopping and requesting happens, the requisition is submitted, and then it goes into the workflow, which these steps represent. It's broken into three categories. Fiscal is the green, compliance, and then procurement. And that's the flow that it's going to go through and the order that it's going to go through when it goes through review. So the first step is the fiscal review. So this would be your DOA approvals. There are three potential fiscal review steps in the system. I want to say 98% of the departments on campus only have the DOA approval turned on. So initial review and secondary review are just options for you to have multiple approvers review a request before it gets submitted. There are some campuses that are utilizing this, but again, for the most part, a requisition will be submitted by the requester, and the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to go to a DOA approval. This functions essentially the same way as it did in CFS, which is a legacy system that this is essentially replacing. Um, so DOA approval will happen. That's again, the fiscal review is the green boxes. After that, based on the type of purchase that you're making, it's going to go to it's going to stop in the compliance review. Um, Compliance is a great term for it. It's essentially making sure that the type of purchase we're making is allowable and that we're doing everything on our end properly to make sure that we, when using state funds, are following all the policies, the public contract code, all the different rules and regulations that we have to follow uh, will be caught in this step. So it looks like quite a bit, but again, this represents every potential stop along the way. There is no time that all of these will be triggered. I'll give you an example. So let's just pretend that you want to purchase a computer. You done your shopping, done your requesting, you submitted your request, and it's been approved by your DOA approver. Now it's in compliance review. Well, that's going to trigger IT review because IT needs to review any type of hardware or software purchases that we make. So IT review, which is the first yellow box on my screen, would be the first step that would stop, that it would stop at. And the subject matter experts in IT would do their review, just that same review that they've been doing before we were using P2P. The same individuals in IT are doing the review. They're just doing it in this system now. So IT approvers are individuals who would be doing their review to make sure that we're compliant with all the rules and regulations and policies and laws revolving around IT purchasing. Um, Another example, let's just say you are want to purchase catering for an event on campus. You submit your requisition, it goes to DOA approval, it gets approved by your DOA approver. Well, it's going to trigger catering review in the system. So the individuals who are responsible for reviewing catering or vetting catering vendors on the campus will get a notification to approve a requisition in catering review. They're going to do their subject matter expertise. They're going to apply that to the purchase, and they're going to be able to take actions, communicate with you, and make sure that everything is complete before they approve the catering review. Uh, so usually it'll be one, maybe two of these that are triggered, again, depending on the type of purchase that you're doing. Um, so just some other examples of common ones, independent contractor review. If you're working with the individual on campus, it would go to independent contractor review. If you're purchasing items that have CSUF branding and logos on them, promotional items, for example, it will go to branding and logo review. And again, the same individuals who are doing this already on campus are still doing it. They're just now doing it in this system, so it's cleaner and more concise, and everyone can see uh, the approval process. So that's the compliance step. After that comes procurement review. This technically is another type of approval. Um, it's the same review that procurement was doing before we moved to P2P. We're the last step before a PO is created, and we're checking for insurance, doing contract administration and negotiations, uh, uh, making sure the quotes are that the information on the requisition, all the cost details match the quotes, making sure the quotes are valid. It's the same stuff that we've been reviewing before. We're going to be doing that same review in here. And again, there's multiple boxes in procurement review. Those are triggered based on the type of purchase you're making, but most of the time it's just going to go straight to procurement review, which is the first purple box. We're going to do our review, and then it will be approved and a PO will be created. Any questions about that? I think a lot of people are familiar with this already now that they've been using the system. This is a nice visual of how the workflow actually works. Okay, next we're going to talk about reviewing a requisition, which is essentially what an approver's role is to review a requisition. Um, so we'll talk about locating a requisition in the approval queue and assigning it to yourself, identifying the status of the requisition, and then doing a review. Um, So this screenshot here is a screenshot from the system, and it's essentially what an approver will see when they're seeing what items have been assigned to them. So pending requisitions that are awaiting review and approval will fall into folders, and the folder type will tell you what kind of review it's in, what review step it's in. Um, you will only see approval folders that you have authority to approve. So if you're a DOA approver, where it says blank asset profile ID, you wouldn't see that. It would say something along the lines of DOA approval department ID. It's essentially saying like that you have DOA approval authority over this department ID. So this requisition that's in DOA approval is in a folder that you can approve. If you click the little caret on the side where it says blank asset profile ID on the left-hand side, it will pull down a list of all the requisitions that you have the authority to approve. So when although they're in that folder, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to approve them. Um, there's two steps to an approval, the first step for every approval, whether it's procurement, compliance, DOA, they're all the same. First thing you do is you have to take ownership of the requisition. So in the system, you would assign the requisition to yourself. At that point, you're telling the system and anyone else who's viewing the document in the system that you're working on that approval step. So if it's a DOA approval, you assign it to yourself. You're telling the system, I'm going, and everyone else, I'm going to be doing the DOA approval for this requisition. So you would select a requisition, you check the box, then select an action at the bottom. And again, I'll show you this in the demo later, and assign the requisition. So you would click assign. And again, you would do this if it's a requisition you're going to approve. Um, this is really useful if there's multiple approvers that you have in your area or for your department. Let's just say you for department ID, you have 3 approvers. This is a way to notify the system and ensure that 2 people aren't working on the same approval at the same time. Because when, let's just say, me and 2 other buyers are in the same queue for an approval, well, I'm going to grab the requisitions that I'm meant to approve, and by doing that, they won't see them in their list anymore, and they'll know that I'm working on them. Um, That's essentially what it says here. It's important to assign requisitions to yourself as a first step to prevent others from working on the same document. We don't ever want to be doing double work. Um, Additionally, when you assign it to yourself, that allows you to edit the requisition depending on and the amount of edits you can make depends upon the type of approval role that you have. Okay, so a note on accounting, just the accounting codes in the system. So DOA approvers can override account codes, but they can't change any other items. So what this means is if you're a DOA approver, you um, cannot change chart field information, but you can do an account override, which essentially means, well, let me take a step back here. So commodity codes have assigned account codes. So let's just say you have the commodity code on the chart field. It's general services. General services. That's going to have a default account code that's set. Maybe in your DOA approval step, you realize that you want to change that to a different account code. You can do what's called an account override. You can enter in a different field, the next field over from the account in the chart field, you can enter in a different account code, but you can't change the other chart field information. For those types of updates or any updates that need to be done to a requisition, what you're going to want to do is return it to the requester and have them make the changes. Okay, comments. So commenting on a transaction. This is a key, this is key for essentially anyone who's using the system, but very useful for approvers as well. So comments can be left on requisitions, POs, or vouchers. Comments allow users to communicate important notes, clarify details, and provide updates directly within the transaction record. So the requisition, the purchase order, the voucher, for example. There are 2 ways in the system that you can leave a comment. If you're on a requisition, you could click on the comments tab, which is the left-hand side arrow, the left-hand arrow there. And or you can click on the ellipsis next to where that other arrow is pointing and click add comment. They'll both take you to the same spot. This is extremely useful because comments in the system are a record that is saved for that transaction. So if you're wondering what you did on a prior purchase or a renewal of something, you can look back in your previous documents and see uh, essentially the communication that was involved in that procurement. So this is the screen that you see when you click on the comment tab. You in the first field there, 1, that's the comment box. So that's where you would enter the comment that you want to leave. Um, The second one there is the email notifications. So you can determine who should be notified of the comment. So you can select individuals who you want to add to the comment. Anyone who has a role in P2P or CSUBUY can be added as someone to be notified via email on a comment. So you would just click that add recipient button. Again, I'll show you this later. You can also add attachments to, excuse me. You can also add attachments to your comments if that's necessary. Um, if you don't select an individual to be notified, you're essentially just leaving a record, a comment on the requisition, but no one will be notified of that. The only way that they'll see it is if they go into the requisition and click on the comment. And then number three there is just you click the checkbox to submit your I'm sorry, the check mark to submit your comment. Um, so yeah, so I'm going to show you how to add comments, but I think I'm just going to keep moving forward in the PowerPoint, and I'll show you it all in one big demo at the end. Okay, so now we're going to talk about approval actions. So these are the things that approvers can do in the system other than leaving comments. So we'll talk about locating assigned approvals in your queue, which I kind of talked about, but again, I'll show you. Reviewing requisitions, approving, rejecting, or returning requisitions, forwarding requisitions, adding ad hoc approvers, and again, I'll explain what all these things mean, assigning substitute approvers to a requisition, and reverting to a previous workflow step. So this is essentially a list of all the things that you can do in the system as an approver. Um, So actions to ensure that purchases meet organizational policies, budgets, and requirements before moving forward in the procurement process. So again, this is a list of all the things that you can do as an approver. Um, so the first thing you're going to do is assign the requisition to yourself. I mentioned this before. Assigning it to yourself is essentially telling the system and all the people in who are involved in that document that you're taking ownership of that approval step. Um, After you assign it to yourself, and you click that little down arrow, the drop down, it'll show you a list of all the actions you can take on that requisition. Um, so if you approve the requisition, which is your first option, you're essentially confirming that yes, this the approval step that I'm in, this requisition has met the requirements and I'm approving it to move forward in the workflow. So if it's a DOA approval, when you click approve, you're saying, yes, I approve of using this chart field information and I'm approving the funding source that's been listed here and the amount listed for this purchase, for example. Um, Again, approving a requisition confirms that the requested purchase meets necessary criteria and authorizes it to proceed to the next step in the procurement process. Um, just to put it in a different context, if you're doing, let's just say, vehicle review, which they're individuals who have that approval authority on campus. If they approve the requisition, they're essentially saying, yes, this vehicle meets all the requirement. The purchase of this vehicle in this requisition meets all the requirements that are required of us uh, to to purchase a vehicle on with state funds, essentially. Um, so if you approve it, it completes the step. Again, there are a lot of other things you can do. So we're going to talk about the next one. Return to shared folder. So this essentially will put it back into the folder. So like I said, for every approval, there's two steps. You assign it to yourself, assign in further actions, and then you can, at that point, you have access to these options. If you click return to shared folder, you're essentially undoing that assignment. You're putting it back into the shared folder. Um, Be mindful that if you do this, it's all going to be in the system. So if you assign it to yourself and then unassign it, it's going to show in the history of the requisition that you did that. Not really a bad thing, but just something to take note of. Um, so return to shared folder. If unable to complete the requisition, approvers can return self-assigned documents to the shared folder. I don't know why it says vouchers. That's just one example. I think the example that's more relevant would be requisitions at this point, so I'll kind of talk about that. Um, so if you assign it to yourself and then you realize, oh, I'm not actually the person who should be assigning this or approving this, you can send it back to the shared folder. Comments are good in this regard as well. You could leave a comment and say, hey, I've returned this to the shared folder and notify the individuals who need to know that so that the correct individual could do their approval. So when you return to the shared folder, it unassigns the document and allows access to other approvers. Again, another note about this, if you move it into if you assign it to yourself, it's going to take it out of that shared folder and people won't be able to see it anymore in their approval screen, their approval folders. But when you return it, it's going to go back into that folder for them to see. The next one is place on hold. Um, you can put it on hold to resolve issues before processing. So, I'm trying to think of a good example of when you would use this. We haven't really used this too much yet. But it is something to notify everyone that there's something that's stopping you in the process. Um, for example, just say for procurement, we have access to these same actions. Uh, I would place something on hold. Let's just say if I'm waiting for a new quote from the vendor, I could put a comment in the system and say, "Oh, I'm waiting for a new quote. I'm going to place this on hold," or I'm waiting on updated insurance documents. It's essentially notifying everyone that there's something that's stopping you from doing your approval in the system. The next one is return to requisitioner or requester. So, um, as an approver, you may return the requisition back to the requester so that they can change something. So, this would be essentially what this would do. Let's just say I'm going to use the example of a DOA approver again. If something is submitted to you and it goes to DOA approval and they entered the chart field information wrong and you aren't the correct DOA approver, you would want to send that back to the requisitioner and tell them, hey, you put in the wrong chart field information. I'm not supposed to be approving this. What that's doing is you're going to send the at no matter at what step you are in the approval process, if you do return to a requisitioner, it's going to send it all the way back to the beginning. It's going to send it back to the person who submitted it, and you would have to, well, hopefully notify them of what it is that they need to change um, on in their role. Um, Usually it's so that they can edit something, even if they had the correct chart field information. Let's just say you're the DOA approver and they submit it and you say, hey, you forgot to attach this or that, or you need to include this information. You could send it back to them so that they can make edits and then they can resubmit it. This is a recommended action for most approvers to make. Um, because what it does is it essentially resets it. If there's something wrong with the rec, you're essentially resetting it, and there's a record of it saying, "Hey, this was submitted incorrectly. I'm sending it back to you so you can resubmit it and correct the issues." So it's a very useful tool in the system, and kind of the ideal thing you should be doing as an approver if there is some reason why you can't approve it and there needs to be updates to the requisition. Uh, yeah. Okay. Um, the next thing you can do is forward to. So forwarding a requisition is um uh I don't know why it keeps saying voucher. I'll just read this first. An approver may forward a document to another approver for expertise or proper authorization. Um, so essentially what it is what it says here, transitioning the approval from you to someone else. Um, so you're essentially telling the system like I am forwarding this approval that this role in this scenario to someone else in the system. Um, this is important to note. If you forward a requisition, you are also forwarding your authority along with it. So if you're a DOA approver, you want to forward, we say forward up, because let's just say you're a level 4 DOA approver. So you have a high, a certain dollar threshold you can approve for. And you forward this to someone with a lower DOA approval than you're also forwarding your DOA level with it, just in this one scenario. So it's ideal to forward up to someone who has a higher authority instead of down, because again, when you forward in this capacity, when you assign it to yourself and you're in the requisition or in the document and you forward it, you're telling the system, I'm forwarding this approval to someone else. You're giving them that authority to make the approval. Very key thing to note there. So, for example, and this is not a true example, but if I forward, um, if I was a DOA approver and I forwarded this to a requester or a shopper who didn't submit the requisition, I'm forwarding my authority in that case, which we don't want to do. So use this sparingly. This is not should not, and if you do use it, you would want to forward it up to someone with higher authority than you, for the most part. It's just general guidance. Okay, and the last thing here is reject requisition, which is pretty straightforward, but of course I'll explain it. An approver may reject a document if it contains errors or does not meet the approval criteria. So when you reject a requisition, you're terminating the document from the workflow and it cannot be edited. So you're essentially killing it. Um, it can't be revived, it can't be edited anymore. When you reject it, you're stopping it from continuing forward. Um, So a note on that, reject should be used if the request should not proceed to a purchase order. It's a great way of um, a great way of determining whether or not you should reject it or not. If it is something that needs to be moved forward as a purchase order, but there is something that needs to change, you would want to look at one of your other options. If it's something that you're like, okay, we're not moving forward with this purchase anymore, or during your review you recognize something that uh, isn't fall up to policy or there's an issue and it should not move forward as a purchase, you would use a reject. Another note, if only small modifications are needed, it's much better to return it to the requisitioner and let them resubmit it. And again, the idea that is there something that's stopping you from moving it forward to a purchase order? That would be the only real reason you would want to reject a requisition. Otherwise, it can be sent back to be edited. Okay, so those are the actions, the main actions that you have. There are a few other options. One is an ad hoc approver. So, um, an ad hoc means you're adding them into the workflow. So there's a set workflow that is established um, when a document is submitted. Um, you can move things around inside that workflow, which I've shown you some ways to do that, and I'll show you a few more. But you can also add in additional workflow approval steps, which is what an ad hoc is. So it's essentially this adding in a review step from someone outside the standard approval chain due to special circumstances, expertise, or policy requirements. Um, an ad hoc approver is an additional approver that is added in. So that's the add. That's a great way of thinking about it. You're including a new approver into the workflow. And I'll show you how to do that in the system. It's not under that same button, it's in a separate spot. So when would you want to do that? Why would you assign a substitute approver? Um, oh, okay. Hold on. So the other thing you can do is you can add in substitute approvers. So there are certain scenarios that you would do this. I'll just kind of read through this and explain it. So a substitute approver is someone who's going to be an approver in place of you. Why would you do this? Approvals will not route. will not route if there isn't someone available to take action. Requisitions can get stuck in the workflow, causing delays. Uh, if you set a substitute approver, it ensures that if you're not available to do your approval, someone else can. Um, uh, and you can assign start and end dates to when you would do this. So um, I think this is best explained in an example. Let's just say I'm a DOA approver, but I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks. I don't want to stop the workflow. Uh, People need to be continue submitting requisitions, and I don't want to be a holdup in that process. If I just leave and no one else is there to do the approvals, then all that stuff is going to get backed up in the workflow. It's all going to be stuck in my queue, in my approval queue. So I can assign a substitute approver to, in over the period of time that I'm going on vacation, to do that approval for me. A couple notes about that. The person who you assign it to has to have the approver role in the system. You can't even search for someone who's not an approver. And of course, you want to make sure that that person has the authority to make that approval, because I think in the system, the only thing that it's checking for is that that is an approver of any type. So again, it's important that you know that you're transferring your authority in that role, in that approval role, to someone else. You need to make sure that that person is uh, able to do those approvals for you before you do it. Um, And then this visual kind of just shows what I was explaining. Things will get stuck if you can't do the approval, so you want to make sure that if you're not there to do it, someone else can do it for you. Excuse me. Um, so this is how you actually assign a substitute approver. Again, I'll show you this since it's kind of hard and clunky to just look at a PowerPoint and see. Um, so the first thing you do is you go to the orders file on the left-hand side, and then you go to the approval section, and there's a bunch of different options there, and then you would select assign substitute approver. It's going to pop up this folder here, or this window. It says assign substitute. Um, you select the folder, and then it'll pop this up. It'll open the substitute actions. You would search for the approver that you want to substitute in for you. You always want to enter a start and end date, and then you would assign the folder, and then during that period of time, that individual is going to be responsible for doing your approval. So of course you want to let that person know that before you do this in the system as well. Um, just like I said, if you look at the bottom of that note, it says CSUBUY does not validate that the substitute is appropriate. It's just going to see that that person has the approver role in the system. Again, there are a lot of different types of approvers, so you need to ensure on your end internally that that person is able to do the approvals that you're forwarding to them, or you're using them as a substitute for. Okay. So one other thing that you can do is you can revert to a previous workflow step. So if you haven't realized already, there are a lot of different things that you can do as an approver other than approve, but essentially what they all are is moving it around in the workflow in different ways than you would use the different tools in different scenarios. Another one you can do is this one, revert to a previous workflow step. Um, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Um, so I'm on the right-hand side of every document, it will show you this. It's called the summary, but it's essentially the workflow. It'll show you a workflow of all the approval steps that that document's going to go through. Right next to workflow, you click the ellipses, um, and then you click on it, and then you click select revert workflow to a previous step. At that point, it's going to ask you what step you want to revert it to, and as the title says, it has to be a previous step. So you have to put it back to a step that's already happened. Um, this isn't usually going to be used by someone who's a DOA approver, because the only previous step would be submitting it back to the requester. This would be something, let's just say you're an IT review and there was an issue with the DOA approval. You could revert and the DOA notified you, hey, I need you to send this back to me. you could do this and you could send it, that IT reviewer or whoever is doing that approval could you revert it back to the DOA approval again and have that person do the approval, for example. Um, so yeah, the next thing you do is you would choose which step you want to move it back to. As you can see in this example, this requisition is in procurement review, but they wanted to send it back, so they sent it back to DOA approval. And again, you can only revert to previous workflow steps. It's pretty logical based on the name of it. Revert. Um, okay, so and then you would add a reason. So it'll pop up a comment box for you to explain exactly why it is that you're reverting it back. Um, a note that's important about this is the reason that you enter here is only going to be visible if you go to the history. It's not going to leave a comment on the document, but it will be visible in the history. You can add a comment if you need to, um, and email the approver. You would click back, go to the comments tab, add your comment, and then return to the revert screen and you complete your action. So you can include a comment. If you don't, it's just going to show your note and your reversion reason in the history tab. Uh, After that, the workflow will reset. So once it's reverted, the document will re-enter the workflow starting at the step you selected. So I'm going to show you a demo of that as well. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, I think I'm gonna do a demo now. Are there any questions or anything I missed that people are asking about? I haven't looked at the chat at all. So, can you guys still see my
Yeah,
screen?
nothing's come through. Nothing's
Okay.
come through in the chat, Lauren,
Yeah,
so we're
and
good to go.
I think the previous questions in the past have always been like that ad hoc approver, but I think you addressed it already. You showed how to
Yeah,
set.
and I'll show everything that I just talked about. So, first of all, I'm just gonna go to the shopping homepage. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. So this is the shopping homepage. This is the default homepage for when you first log into the system. Um, if you're an approver, you're going to want to look at your action items, which are the things that you need to approve or the things that you can take action on. An approval is an action in the system. Um, so there are a few ways you can get to that. The first thing is this up here, action items. So this is going to list things that you can take action on or you can approve. Um, so have a approver role and I'm a buyer, so I have authority to approve during the procurement review step. So if I click here, requisitions to approve, it's going to take me to this screen, the approval screen, which we talked about before. And then it shows me two folders here. It says my PR approvals, so these are approvals that are assigned to me already, and then other things that are in my queue, oh, but not assigned to me directly. And it tells me why they're assigned. But the other way you would get to this is you would come here and you go to orders, approvals, uh, requisitions to approve. So this is the screen that I'm already on. Again, it's only going to show you the ones that are able to approve. There are, for example, four buyers here in the training, and none of them see the same things as me. They only see the ones that are assigned to them or that they can approve. So, for example, if you have a DOA approval of three different commodity or three different department IDs, you're going to see requisitions that are in DOA approval for those department IDs only. You won't see them for any other department IDs. That makes sense. So I'm just gonna give you an example. So I'm gonna go into one of these. Um, so these are requisitions. They're all listed here. Actually, I'll show you the first thing. So there are a few different ways you can assign requisitions to yourself or documents to yourself. The first one is from this screen here. So if you see here, there's a little tabs I can select these documents here. So I'm going to select one, and then this pops up here, select an action. So from here, there are a lot of different things I can do. But the first thing, remember what you do as an approver, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to assign it to yourself. So I can click this, assign and further actions. It was already assigned to me, but just to show you how you would do that. Um, so can I return it from here? I can. So I can return to the shared folder here. So this is already assigned to me, but I can return this to the shared folder as well. So I'll do that. As you can see, it disappeared. It's not in this. These are my assigned ones that are assigned to me. So like I said, if you return something to a shared folder, you're not going to see it. If it's assigned to you, you're going to see it. Um, that scenario is a little bit unique because that was assigned to me. That was forwarded. That was requisition was forwarded to me by my approver. Um, but it wasn't originally assigned to me in my folder, which is why I can't see it now. Um, so I'm just going to open one of these up so you can see an example of what you would do as an approver. So here I am, I'm in the requisition, and I'll just kind of go through all the things that I talked about. So um, the first thing you want to do is, well, assign it to yourself if you're going to work on it. Uh, it's already assigned to me because, like I said, that was just showing me the ones that are assigned to me. My example is a little bit unique as an approver because a lot of the things get assigned to me directly. But again, they would still be in a folder and you would see if they were assigned or not. I'm going to go back actually so I can show you. Oh, whoops, I forgot you can't do that. Okay. Um, if you see here, it says assigned approver and it has my name. If I was looking at a shared folder, it would say unassigned. But again, these ones are already assigned to me. So I'm going to go back into this requisition. So the first thing you would do is up here, it would, if it isn't assigned to you, it's going to say assign and further actions. Once you click that, you can edit. So I can edit these documents now because it's assigned to me. Again, my approval is a little bit different than everybody else because I'm a buyer, so I have more authority to edit things. Um, if you're a DOA approver, essentially you're reviewing this, and if something needs to be changed, it's ideal for you to return it to the requisitioner so that they can change it themselves, not make the changes on your behalf, like not make the changes for them. I guess that's true for any approver, honestly. Um, Okay, so from here, I'm just going to kind of cover some information about, as an approver, what you want to look at. The first thing is this summary window here on the right-hand side. This is going to show you the entire workflow that this has gone through and is going to go through. So if you look here, submitted, it was submitted at this time by this individual. These are automated steps. So these validations happen automatically and this probably took about 15 to 20 seconds. Then it stopped in DOA approval, and the DOA approval was triggered by the department ID that they entered. And that approval happened at this time and by this individual. This is an automated step here. And now it's in procurement review. And hey, what do you know? Look, I put this one on hold. Um, I put this on hold because of insurance. So I left a comment saying as much, I believe, verifying insurance coverage. So I put that comment and I put the requisition on hold. So that's one of the real life example, one of the options you have as an approver. But as you can see, it says my name here because it's assigned to me. If I hadn't assigned this to myself, it would just say unassigned. If I click on this, it would show the name of the individuals who can work on it. Okay. So another thing, comments. So this is what we were talking about before. This is a main place for you to communicate information to anyone involved in the uh, in the workflow or in the approval process, or even the requesters and the shoppers. So to add a comment, you just click here, new comment. I'm not really going to enter it, but test, for example, there's a list of individuals who've been involved so far. So like this was the DOA approver, me, the requester, and the person who forwarded it to me. But I can add more people. So if I click add recipient, I can search for someone and I could select them. Notice that there's a checkbox next to his name now. So if I don't check any of the boxes here, I'm going to leave a comment, but it's not going to do anything. It's not going to notify anyone. If I want to notify them, I have to select their name. So every person who I select, when I post my comment by clicking this checkbox, it's going to send an email to those individuals saying, hey, a comment's been left on this requisition by this person, and then there's a link for you to will take you directly back into here so you can view the comments. I'm not going to leave a comment though. Okay, back to the summary tab. Another thing that's important to note is the history here. Um, so this shows you every single thing that's happened to this requisition, whether it was by the system, so an automated step, or by an individual. As you can see, uh, this is the requester. They made changes to line one, and they submitted the requisition. Uh, then the system went through some automated steps. It did the automated validations. Then it went into DOA approval. And then the DOA approval happened, and then the requisition was assigned to me by my director. He forwarded it, so he's an approver as well. He forwarded it, so my director approved forwarded it to me, and he left a comment saying, "Hey, work on this." And then I got in here and I started to do my review and my edits as a buyer in the procurement review. So it shows all the different things that I did, all the changes I made, the comments I added. And then right here, look, I put the requisition on hold and it left a comment. I left a comment verifying insurance coverage, which is why I put it on hold. So I left that comment to let the requester and the approvers know, hey, this is the reason I haven't approved this one yet. Because part of my review is to make sure that any suppliers who are coming on campus to perform services have provided proof of insurance that meets our requirements, for example. Another thing is you can review attachments here. There are no attachments to this document. This is for a blanket purchase order, so there's not really any required, but this is where I would add attachments. You would drag and drop here if you needed to. You can also add attachments to your comments. Just show that again. So from here, I could add an attachment. You would just search for the file. You click this, and I could search for files here that I want to attach. Pretty sure everyone here is familiar with that. Okay, so I've done my review, let's just say, for example, and I'm ready to approve this or take action on it. So what I would do is, again, first I would assign it to myself. Oh, and then one more thing. You can get to comments here, I think. Add comment. Does the same thing, and it'll add a comment. Just another way to do it. I recommend this because you can see the other comments when you're doing it. It's just personal preference, I guess. Okay, so my actions. Here are all the actions that I have available to me. Approve and next are essentially the same thing. All that means is if I click approve and next, it's going to approve this requisition in procurement review, and it's going to move to the next requisition. As you can see, it says 2 of 11 results. Here's showing all the requisitions that are in procurement review and assigned to me. If I click approve, essentially we'll do the same thing. We talked about this too, return to shared folder. So this requisition is assigned to me. If I click return to shared folder, it's essentially taking my name off of it and putting it back into the shared folder for someone else to grab. Return to requisitioner. So um, this will return the requisition all the way back to the person who submitted the request. I would want to give them a reason why that is. I would say I'm returning this requisition because you entered the wrong vendor, or Um, you're not authorized to make this type of purchase. So I'm just giving you examples, but that would be where I would do that. Forward to, I'll just show you what this looks like. So I would search for someone's name, click search, select that individual, and leave a comment. And again, if I do this forward to, I'm forwarding my review step to that person. So I'm an approver. I have DOA. My buyer approval authority is for $100,000. If anything is over $100,000, there's an additional step, review step that's required of me. But that's just for example. But if I let's just say forward this to a buyer who has a lower DOA approval, I'm forwarding my DOA approval level to them. So Christian Laffoon is here. He's a buyer one. He has $25,000 approval authority. If I forward this to him, I'm telling the system, I'm giving him my approval level of $100,000. So it's important to remember that. If you forward, you're forwarding your DOA or your approver status in the system. In this one instance, I'm forwarding it to someone else. So use this very sparingly. You don't really want to be doing this. And then reject requisition, that kills it. So the only time that this would be done by approvers would be if this is not able to go to a purchase order or complete and become a purchase order. We're stopping it in its tracks, essentially. Okay. Any questions? Nothing? Okay. Keep going.
Yeah, still nothing.
Okay. Um, okay. Oh yeah, ad hoc approving. So you can ad hoc as well. I believe every approver can do this when it's in their review step. You would do that right here. Add ad hoc approver. Oh, that's nice. If you hover over this, it tells you exactly what you're doing if you add an ad hoc approver. Um, so I'm going to show you what that would be like. You click add. Uh, so remember, when you ad hoc, you're adding someone to review after whatever step you choose. Um, it's essentially the steps that are left after you. So since I'm in procurement review, there's not really much else that's going to happen before this workflow is complete because the procurement is the last review step for a requisition most of the time. Um, but if I was in DOA, um, there would be multiple steps still that haven't been approved yet that could be ad hoc. Um, you can rename what the ad hoc is. Let's just say that I realized that for some reason I needed my procurement director to review this. I could add him in as an ad hoc approver. I could say procurement director review. Then I would search for him here. That didn't work. There we go. And I could tell him why test. I could say, I need you to review this and approve this purchase before it creates a PO. And then I click save here. And what would happen is it would essentially add a new stop here. It would say ad hoc or it would say procurement director review and it would be assigned to Alex. So after I approved it, it would go to that new step that I've added into the workflow. I hope that makes sense. Okay. What else? Revert. So if you want to add something, add an approval step later in the system, you do the ad hoc. If you want to move something back in the workflow, but not send it directly all the way back to the requester, you would do revert to a previous workflow step. You do that by first coming over here to the workflow and you click this ellipses, it's right across from workflow. Revert workflow to a previous step. And since I'm the last approver, there are a lot of steps I could move it back to. If you move it back to an automated step, it's just going to move through those steps again. So if I move it back to this one, requisition validation 1, it's going to go back to that validation, but it's automatically, the system's going to recognize it's in an automated step and it's going to move it forward and it would move it to DOA. So I don't really think you would ever move it to an automated step. But let's just say I wanted to move it back to DOA. I could click select and I could put a reason and then it would revert back to the step that I told it to. So it would go back to DOA approval. That DOA approval would need to happen, and then it would come back into procurement review again. I think I got everything. You guys think of anything else I missed that I didn't talk about? Oh, there's one thing here. So
Substitute
as,
approvers?
huh?
Did
Say
you
it again.
cover substitute approvers?
Oh, substitute approvers. Perfect. Okay. So the one other thing that you can do, which again, you would do this if you're going to be gone on vacation, let's just say, for example, in order for things, you don't want things to get stuck in your approval step. So you want to make sure that there's always someone who can do your approvals when you're not there or not available. In that case, you would assign a substitute approver. The way to do that is you come over here to approvals. You go to the orders flyout, approvals, assign substitute approver, and you can do it for the different types of requests in the system, requisitions, purchase orders, or requests, which are essentially non-purchase related requests like new supplier ads and stuff. I don't really think that will apply to anyone in here. Most likely it's going to be requisitions. You click on this, and it pulled up a list of all the approval steps that I have personally. Um, your list will look different than this. Uh, but then at this point, I would select which one of these approval steps I need to assign. So let's just say this commodity code group. I would need to reassign this because I'm going to be on vacation. So I would include date range. Let's just say it's going to be from today until 2 weeks from now. And then I would find a substitute name. I'm gonna just say, let's just say another buyer here, right? I would select that individual and then I would click assign. And that folder would be reassigned to that individual for that period of time that I specified. Um, so the system would essentially treat that individual as me in that function in that folder for that period of time. This is important. Always check this box, include date range when you're assigning a substitute. If you need a permanent substitute or changes to routing rules, approval folders, or signature authority levels, please let us know because um, if you have to indefinitely forward an approval step to someone else, we just need to reassign those roles in the system, which you would reach out to us, email us, dlcsuby p2p at fullerton.edu, and we would work with you to change the authority levels or do whatever changes on the back end need to be done so that you don't need to assign a substitute. A substitute would be just like for that, that's a perfect example. They're just subbing in for a period of time while you're unavailable to do that review or that approval. And I think that's it. Um, I think it's oh, one other thing is you probably want to, if you're an approver, I would recommend that you change your home screen to the approvals screen. Um, Again, you get to that, which you come to orders, approvals, requisitions to approve. So that'll take you to the screen here. And you can set this as your home screen. You just go up here to user and then set my home page. And you can decide the default home page is the shopping home screen. And you can say current home page, requisitions to approve. But as you can see, I already have that as my default home page. And then you would click save changes. And when I click this home button, let's just say I'm on the shopping home screen, it's going to take me to this page. Pretty useful. It'll take you to this page when you log in. Uh, if you're an approver, I would recommend that. Save you a couple of clicks. Um, Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Um, any questions, comments? Did I miss anything, guys? Approving's pretty straightforward. If you ever have questions or you're unsure on what you should do, you can reach out to us. We'll happily help you out. You can send us an email. I highly recommend you use the comments. It's a great way to communicate in the system. And again, if you include an individual to get an email notification, like they're going to get an email with your comment. So it's a great way to not only notify people and get them to look in the system, but it's a great way to, record and document the changes and communication around that procurement. So very useful. And it's been working really well so far. Any last questions? Anything? I don't know how many people are on this. I'm going to stop sharing. Um, Okay, if you guys don't have any other questions or anything, I think we can stop here. Again, we'll have a recorded version of this on our website, but we also have the two previous weeks' trainings recorded and on the website. I recommend you go there to review those if they're relevant to you. Even if you're not a requester, it doesn't hurt. It'll definitely give you a better understanding of what the other individuals are doing. But if you don't have time, which we're all busy, I understand this as well. So, um, all right. There's no other questions. Oh, I see a question. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry. And maybe this is part of the training that I missed is in terms of a requester. I'm normally the approver. But I have one in my queue right now for a Staples order, and it's for a computer monitor. So is this taking the place of our old process where we would request IT approval in a case like that?
It's not.
Okay.
So IT would be a separate approval that will happen after that. So you're just are you a DOA approver?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're just approving the doing your fiscal review. That's all.
Okay.
If they're purchasing a computer, if you go into the request and scroll down in the workflow, you will see probably on there that IT has been flagged as a review step as well.
So if they haven't, do I need to forward it to them? Because it's a Staples order. So it would normally, I think, be like an office supply if we use Staples, but in this case, we're using it to purchase something that is an IT
You,
hardware.
Yeah.
you could ad hoc them would be the best way. But
Okay.
I think that if you're unsure, you could reach out to us, and we
Okay.
can help you determine what the best step would be. What was the item again, if you don't mind?
It's a monitor,
A
computer
monitor.
monitor.
So,
Yeah.
so the way that P2P works is if you are using a Staples punch out in P2P, when you select the monitor from Staples, it will be flagged as an IT hardware. And so that actually triggers an IT review. So IT will review that purchase for that IT hardware.
Sounds like she was saying it
Um,
didn't trigger IT though.
oh, it
I
didn't?
don't see,
Maybe,
unless it's called something else. So it's at my step. It says DOA approval, and then the next one is OFAC check.
And then
yeah,
what do
okay.
you
And then what's
see?
after that?
Yeah.
Then there's a diamond. It says start parallel steps, and then it goes to requisition validation,
Keep scrolling down. What else do you
and
see in
then
there?
create PO, and then finish.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
Probably
And
because
it's
the
a
commodity
Staples
code.
order.
I can send
Yeah,
some
it's
screenshots if that helps, but
we could if you could give us your rec number, we could just look at it on our
oh,
screen.
okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. My chat is disabled, so I can't put it in, or I guess I could put it in Q&A.
Yeah, you can put it in the Q&A. Good catch.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
essentially it
let's
should
look at
go
it.
to IT review.
That's why I
Yeah,
haven't approved it
the
yet, because
punch
I'm like,
outs.
something doesn't look right.
It's the commodity
Yeah,
code. Yeah.
it's listed under general supplies instead of IT hardware. So that's not really anybody's fault. It's on the supplier to essentially mark their products appropriately, which it's something that we're finding a lot with this new process is that when you're shopping on like Amazon or Staples, items aren't marked appropriately. In this case, it's marked as a general supply, which technically it's not. It's an IT hardware. So yeah, Lauren is right. You could ad hoc. You can add in an IT approver.
Okay.
If just in case, just so we cover our bases, if you did approve this and it moved over to, oh, actually, this one would bypass because it's a general supply, so it wouldn't even go to procurement.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
It's good that you caught that.
yeah, it's good that you caught that. These are
So
just
do the,
conversations that we're having
yeah,
with the
Yeah.
suppliers because the fix is really on the supplier end of things, not
okay.
really with our department.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, when you use the punch out, it essentially tries to take whatever coding system that they have in Staples and make those codes match with our commodity codes. And we've been recognizing, like Alex said, like there's a lot of times where it's incorrect. So like for
Hmm.
example,
Hmm.
this is not general supplies. General supplies would be like pens, paper, that kind of thing, not
Okay.
Yeah.
a computer monitor. Um,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
the reason that it, just another note too, the reason it didn't trigger procurement review is because if you use a punch out, there are we're calling them fly throughs, but they're called low risk, low price purchases. So if you use the if you use a punch out vendor such as Staples, it's under $5,000 and it is one of 8 commodity codes, which are supplies, it will bypass procurement review. Um,
Mm.
if things are coded correctly, then then it works properly. So like if you were
Mhm.
purchasing paper, it should
Mhm.
flag it as general supplies and it would fly through. But since this is actually an IT item,
Yeah.
it should have given it an IT commodity code and then it would trigger procurement
Hmm.
review. So even if you had missed that it needed to be reviewed by IT, we would catch that and we could add them in uh to the review process.
Okay. So in
Yeah.
approving things that would potentially require someone else's review, I should be looking for those things as one of the approvers and potentially adding the ad hoc step.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Either your requester or yourself, whoever sort
Okay.
of catches it first,
Yeah.
one of you two can add the ad hoc step. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I'll do that for this one. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Great catch.
Yeah. Great catch.
Um, I see Jennifer left a question, or she said, I pulled a list of commodity codes for another CSU. Do we have a list available on the CSUF training websites? It's been super helpful. I don't believe we have one. That is a good note. We should do something like that. We would have to add it to our website, but yeah, we can do that. Um, you can also see it in the when you're on a requisition, you can select from or when you're entering the commodity code, you can see it. But yeah, it'd be useful to have a list. So we'll work on that.
Hmm.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anything else? Any other questions? You have our undivided attention. Take advantage.
Just to go back to Jennifer's question really quick, accounting services and financial reporting, they do have the chart of accounts. I'm not sure if they're going to be updating that list to include the commodity codes. That's something we can bring up to them. Maybe we can say which commodity codes link to which account codes. That way we have commodity codes and account codes kind of in one place. So we'll look into that.
Yeah, commodity codes are kind of a new thing, so it is useful
Yeah.
that we, yeah.
Hmm.
And we understand if people don't know what the correct commodity code is because it's a new field entirely. So, um, okay, I think that's it. Um, If you guys have more questions, you can email us. We also have one-on-one time available with the buyers and AP, as well as a few other individuals from financial services. So if you go to our website again, the P2P page on our website, you can see our availability and book time, and we can work through any one-on-one issues you have. And there we can just kind of delve in directly into whatever it is you're working on, and we can just help you. So if you feel like you need more help, please do that. We're also going to have more trainings next week. What are we covering next week? It's payments, right?
Next week is receipts and payments. So we'll be looking into how payments to suppliers work in P2P.
Yeah. So super useful. We're getting to that point now that people have been putting in their recs and they're getting ready to pay for things. So highly
Hmm.
recommend you go to that. We'll have in-person trainings throughout the week, and then Friday we'll do a Zoom training. So and that's all listed on our website as well. But if you guys don't need anything else, I think we're gonna call it here. Um, Thank you for attending the training and appreciate the participation.